What's up, everybody? Jeff and Kev from 0 Point Reviews, where there is absolutely no point not to review this particular movie, and we will give points. We will not give points. We don't give a shit. Welcome to The Crow from 1994, directed by Alex Price, starring Brandon Lee. Kevin, what is your first memory of this bad boy?
My first memory of this flick was being a little kid sitting on my couch one night and hearing about Brandon Lee dying on Entertainment Tonight.
Ooh, yeah.
Even though I was a little comic book kid at that point already, I hadn't read The Crow, so I wasn't familiar with it or hip to any of the movies going on at that point. So I just saw like this reenactment of what had happened, and I was like, oh, yeah, dang. So that was kind of my first calling to it. I don't think I saw it until maybe a year or two after that, then maybe 95, 96, okay. 95.
Yeah.
What about
mine?
you?
Oh, God, mine is about the same as you. Around that time as a kid, I would still watch like, it's called TMZ now, but back then it was like Entertainment Weekly or something like that. The nightly 30-minute little recap of news in Hollywood and whatnot, because I was really big in the TV shows and movies at that time still. And this was announced on there before I ever saw it on like the national news, then like an hour later or whatever, because living in San Diego, that was kind of my wheel well of like news and everything. And tragic news, and they're like, he died on one of the last final days of shooting, and they don't know how to fix this, that, and the other, how they're going to wrap up production because they were so close to the end. And they were doing one of the last shots. And then you hear about the details of what happened with them, and it's just super heartbreaking. And, after this, there was some changes to how things are handled on sets until, of course, in the last year or so, we heard about another incident that was actually a bit different. But it's unfortunate that this happened back when it did. It took out Brandon and away from us, and it's super sad. And like, I knew of him. Like, one of the movies I remembered him from was like Rapid Fire, if I remember correctly. And he had been doing some other like pretty okay movies. I mean, he clearly had good physical presence. He had charisma like his dad did. But we're still trying to kind of find him, if he was going to be a breakout star or what he was going to end up becoming, because he was doing things a little bit more differently than his father Bruce.
Yeah.
And then when this movie came out, it's like, I gotta see this because this is his last film. Hopefully it's pretty good. And then you would see the trailers. And so ultimately, eventually, I did see this in the movie theaters. I'm pretty sure I snuck into this one. I actually don't know if this is rated R. Or is this PG-13? No,
it's an R. They had to run it 5 times before they got it down to an R.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to say R, but it's like, shit, I don't have any of my, I got my copies right down here. But I mean, R-rated movie. And I remembered sneaking into this one, buying a ticket for a completely different movie, and then like, hey, I'm going to this movie. Oops, I made a right turn into The Crow. Oh, darn. But of course, the movie was like fucking badass and awesome. Totally loved it. And ever since then, I've been a huge fan of this movie. And it's not just because it's Brandon's last movie and probably his best role to date, but because it's actually a very good movie. And it has this constant energy flowing through it that it just pulls you in. And I totally loved it in the theater. Became a huge fan. I've always had it in my collection. And just today, I got my little 4K. So I got my steelbook case of this. Yay. And I didn't get a chance to watch it before we recorded. That's okay. My wife and I are kind of getting through the Planet of the Apes movies right now as we get ready for that fourth one to come out. But this looks pretty good. Reviews are outstanding about it. And stay tuned to our social media, everybody. We're going to be giving away a digital code on this week. So better be going. If you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, Instagram, you're going to want to go there, because the second it goes up, it's a free-for-all. We're not pulling names. We're not doing, hey, find a keyword. It's first come, first serve. So you might want to be on our socials in order to get that code.
Yes, we like watching people fight amongst each other. So,
yeah, Murder, Death, Kill. Well, and as you can also see, I got my Funko Pops up here that are on display, and I have a NECA figure from like years ago, kind of off in a corner. I am going to be doing a unboxing video of that at some point this week, so that's a little special surprise from Jeff.
Nice, very groovy. Yeah. Now, do any of those have tattoos on their faces or breathable pubic regions up there I can't see?
No, I don't think. Might have to do a little special extra unboxing in order to see if that's a thing. Or here, give me a minute. I got a pen. I'll be right back.
I really don't want them to make a Funko of the new Crow movie. I know they will. I don't want them to.
Merchandising. Okay, so we are likely to jump around in this review. That's just what we do here. We go off on tangents. If you can't handle that, get the fuck out of here. We don't want you anyway. But as far as merchant, what's that?
We'll see you on the podcast where we're much more linear.
So yes, so Kevin says. But anyway, just to talk about merchandising for a moment, is like, I really don't see how they're gonna try to merchandise the new Crow. I can see them doing like soundtracks, t-shirts maybe, but like based on what I'm seeing, how are they gonna do a Funko Pop that people, or not a Funko Pop, but like a NECA figure or something like that people are actually gonna want to buy? The movie's gonna have to be good to begin with, and the performance by Bill is gonna have to be probably his best performance he's ever given. Anything less than that is not going to play well to the strengths of that movie, whatever they may be. As opposed to this movie, the look is iconic. It's pulled from the comic books, but in live action form, it's a whole nother level. Like, there's been so many mimics of this throughout the years in other shows. We are covering The Crow Stairway to Heaven on our podcast. It's got a different sort of a look, but same vibe. And even in wrestling, there's a wrestler called Sting who ultimately donned the Crow style face paint. Of course, he's tweaked it and made it basically his own look through the years, but he's got that kind of like mime sort of theatrical face paint, and it totally rules.
Stinger? Yeah, I guess so.
Sting!
It took me a long time to accept it without being like, that is so dumb. Like, because it was a mock-up of the Crow, it looked dumb to me. Like, come on, man, why are you doing that? And yes, he has made it his own over the years.
Oh, yeah, he has.
Lordy, at first, it was just... Anyway.
Well, when you watch the wrestler and how that developed, it took a while for the full face to actually come into play and for the long hair to come out. So it actually filled out the look. Because initially, it's like if I was to do it with this hair and then wait like 6 more months for my hair to grow out before I could start like really altering like anything. So any of you WCW wrestling fans from back then that were into that and you saw how that developed, even you will admit, yeah, he didn't really dial that look in for a few months, but he eventually got there, and he had the cool like leather jacket. He rappelled from the ceiling. He actually had a crow slash like whatever bird he had just to kind of like pull from, this look, and it looked totally awesome. It totally played well to the crowd, and it made it reinvented his character for years upon years. And today, what better way to say thank you to the Crow than by carrying on an image like that?
True. Stinger has it even to date, doesn't he? Like I know he just tired again, but like that's how he went out, was with that gimmick.
Oh,
I thought. Yeah. I don't know. Sting can't do anything wrong. So I mean, it was never going to fail, but it certainly did make me laugh.
Oh yeah.
Because it's me. It's my nature. But to your point, just to show what you were talking about, he looked pretty iconically perfect too. What we recognize as the Crow.
Oh, what a coat.
Oh. Sans pubic region. So,
what, you don't want to see the 9-pack he's rocking? Because it ends at 8 and goes into number 9.
His belly was just so bright. It was brighter than this entire film was. It's like, okay, then.
Yeah, the film is actually pretty dark for the most part. There's not much as far as like brightly lit scenes or settings at all.
No,
our background here is more has more light going on in it than the movie does.
Mm-hmm. The movie's primarily sepia, sepia mixed with color, kind of how they did The Wizard of Oz, and it looked beautiful, especially because they used so much fire that the sepia didn't even look like it was sepia. It looked like natural fire in dirty ass Detroit.
Oh yeah, that is without a doubt, and I love the look of this movie. It totally feels it's its own like world come to life, and it doesn't feel like it's ripping off from like Batman or anything, because this isn't Gotham. It's a totally different sort of like area of this city. It feels like it's a little more alive in the way it accepts death and murder and crime in this area. It almost makes Gotham look like the nice sunny little location you go for a vacation.
Gotham has hope. It has the Batman. These cops are so under fucking paid that, you know, they're just trying to break even.
Yep. And then Mr. Albrecht, played by Ernie Hudson. I love him in this movie.
Yeah, I would say this would be either my second or third favorite film of his, next to Ghostbusters, of course.
I go second for me, and I've seen him in a lot of stuff.
My third would probably be then Hand That Rocks the Cradle, because he made me cry in that. God damn it.
Ooh.
She treated him so horribly in that. I was like,
Well, it's funny. I actually, for the longest time, I didn't realize like Tony Todd was in this freaking movie too. It wasn't until like I've always like known he was in the movie, but I don't know what it is. But every time I've ever watched the movie, I completely forget like I'm supposed to be looking for him. Then I see the name of the credits, and this time I was actually like, because I haven't seen this movie in a very long time. Probably since I bought the Blu-ray, probably about like 5 years ago. And I never remember that it's Tony Todd in this movie. And he did a great job too. And I wish he could have had a little more interplay with some of the other characters and cast in the movie, because he was chewing up scenery just as well as Ernie was. And the other movie I would like from Ernie is Leviathan.
Yes, that would be cool. That would be way cool. Okay, yeah. Oh, no, I can't say that this would be, or that would take precedence over this, or...
oh, yeah, not over this movie, no.
Hand That Rocks the Cradle, but still, damn good movie.
Right.
I 0 pointed.
Oh, that's okay. I can continue on Ernie, because I love his chemistry he has with Brandon. And you can say that part of that is the script, but the two of them together, whenever they're in the same room, it feels like they do acknowledge each other. It's like they get a feel for, I know who you are. I know what you're doing. We're okay here. I just don't know how to deal with you. That's all. But there's a very, very relaxed feel between the two instead of the constant tension. And you get that more out of the TV show than you do out of this particular movie. And I like this dynamic so much better. It's not so confrontational. It's not so, who the fuck are you? You're supposed to be dead. It's, I know you're back from the dead. Here's what I know.
I don't believe that, but I see that. So here we are.
Yep. So it's like there's a solid paycheck in this. I am believing anything you tell me right now.
Exactly. And like he left his hat on, talking in his briefs.
That was super funny.
Smoking a cigarette and drinking at the same time. And Brandon's like,
they'll kill you.
Give me some of that too.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I love so much about Brandon as the Crow is he's not this superhero type. He's just a normal dude in these extremely abnormal circumstances.
Extremely.
Trying to be the clown in again, extremely unhappy situation.
Right.
And he does get those laughs in this movie, and they're far and few in between, but you have to find them in certain areas.
Because some of it's unintentional humor. So it's not exactly he's trying to drop one-liners like Mark does in the show.
Yes. Towards the end, where he finally kills Skank, and the cops come busting in, and they're like, freeze! That's the end of the movie. He's avenged his death, but he just kind of throws his hands up in the air very slowly, rolls his eyes, and then dances to the side. Like,
well, it's like they almost pace that to the point of save it for these really more potent moments that would accentuate what he just went through. And so you're giving a little bit of levity to particular scenes from what we just witnessed.
Yes, this huge, long gunfight to more guns and intensity, like even bigger guns, and he's just gonna dance away. No. And it's funny as shit. And it's poetic in its way because it's so antecedent to what, like you said, what we just previously seen.
Right.
And he had zero fucks to give about what had just happened, about what was happening, and he was just really wanting to get to where he was going to go, not thinking he was going to have to deal with the rest of the Beagle Boys. Yeah.
I mean, he still had the singular focus on taking out anybody that was even remotely involved. And I loved him beating up the pawn shop owner, too, a little bit, who ended up being like this total dickbag. John Polito. Oh, so good.
This is my favorite John Polito role of all time. Like
I have to agree with that.
That little fucking coke nail of his is the nastiest shit I've ever seen.
That's one of those things I forgot about with this movie because, again, I hadn't seen it in a long time. But it's like, I don't remember that fucking long-ass nail from any time I've ever seen this movie. So it's like I'm picking up something new. And it kind of popped me. I'm just like, is that a Lee press-on nail, bro?
Yeah, and he's got two dead ladies' fucking rings on his pinky fingers, too.
Diamonds are a boy's best friend.
The one on the bottom has fucking blood on it still.
I know. If you're watching a horrible VHS recording version of this movie, you're probably thinking it's some cheap-ass cubic zirconia from the QVC or something like that. The Home Shopping Network with John Polito. I'd totally buy something from him.
And then you've got like the gnarliest, most sadistic fucker in the movie, Tintin.
Yeah. Oh,
saying this all the things.
So good being a complete asshole.
Yes, and terrifying. But he's shaming Gideon.
Yeah,
you sanctimonious, pederast, this and that, like every single dirty word that you could possibly call somebody or debaucherous thing.
Yep.
That Tintin is not, Polito is. And that's where you're just kind of like, okay, he's probably the dirtiest one out of all these sons of bitches.
Yep. And he's first up, too. He's the first one to go down at the hands of the Crow.
Yes. It gets fucked up so bad.
I got my two friends, and they don't miss. And you just missed twice.
Shit on me. Shit on me.
He's like, let me educate you in murder. It's easy.
When you've got skills, Tintin, come on now.
Yep, you quit showboating, bro. Just freaking do it. But you got to do it with some style.
With some style. No, I liked Tintin. Tintin was probably my favorite out of the gang. And I joked the other night saying that the gang was based on the Beagle Boys, like Burger, Big Time,
right?
Ma. I don't. They did come out with a bunch of weird names, and God, what was it? The three main bad guys? Top Dollar, his sister Micah, and Candyman was Grange. Their names aren't even referred to; they're just listed in the credits at the end.
Right, because I was specifically waiting for somebody to call him Top Dollar or Top Dollar, and I never heard that until the credits rolled. And that's something movies don't really do anymore. Usually, you got to mention them by character name so that you get a name in the end credits to kind of compare them to. But like movies from like, I don't know, say before like 1998. All the way to back from when I was growing up, like even the original classic Halloween movie. Michael Myers, the specific Michael Myers, is known as the Shape. He's not actually known as Michael Myers, but they have Michael Myers young kid, Michael Myers a little bit older, and then just the Shape. And then, but they never call him the Shape in the movie. And in this, like, they don't even give these people names. They let you see what they're called during the credits. And that's something they just don't do anymore for like whatever reason. And I think that's a nice touch because it makes people get a little more. Some people will say that's lazy. You could have just had somebody call them their name so you would have something to go against. But once you hit that certain level of the third act, you almost don't care what their names are. You want to see the crow fuck them up and fuck them up bad. So it almost becomes a mute point at that time. And narratively, I don't have a problem with that. I can understand how some do, but I don't see that as a problem. I think that works out very well. And then when you watch the movie a second time, you're like, it's Top Dollar.
Top Dollar. He make you holla. I hate the name, honestly. And
I don't like it either.
I don't think I've ever caught it up until this last viewing, and I absolutely hate it. I never want to hear it again, and I know we're going to talk about it again on Thursday.
Not this Thursday, Kevin.
I know what week it is. Kiss my ass. But anyway.
Kiss your own ass.
Yeah, you doing? Anyway.
Anyway.
Speaking of kissing his own ass, we'll get back to the one shot where we say, he looks weird.
I love that scene. I've actually replicated that before.
In a way, who hasn't? Like, it's so natural.
It's so, like, out of the world-ish. Like, something is fucked up with this dude, and I wouldn't want to get in his way.
Kinda. It's like a cat that's found something to rub its scent on for a second before it pounces the mouse, which he was clearly about to do.
Yeah.
All things considered. But golly, yeah, that watching this part here as a kid, this did actually bother me because I did remember seeing that segment on Entertainment Tonight where they either showed it or they recreated the scene. And it was just very much like, oh, golly, they kept that in there. But I guess even the actor quit acting for like a year after this scene here.
Yeah.
What had happened, just to like stop teetering about it, is there was a whole bunch of accidents on the set of this, and there's a variety of reasons why there was a bunch of accidents. Cocaine and money are the reasons why there was a variety of accidents on the sets of this movie. There were fires, there were car accidents, there were electrocutions, there was, of course, an accidental shooting. Which I don't believe that the actor that pulled the trigger knew that he was pulling the trigger on somebody, least of all a colleague and a friend.
Right.
Um,
Completely different situation from the most recent one in the news.
Well, let's see here. It was said, some believe that because of the tragic death of Brandon Lee, this movie is responsible for the changing gun safety standards in film. Ergo, in action sequences, the gun is held off to the side and tricky camera angles are used when the weapon is aimed at a character to avoid misfiring or other horrific accidents.
Yep.
So, Baldwin, let's talk about that for a second. You really fucked up. This should have been the last time something like this ever happened. This should have never happened in the first goddamn place. They were trying to make a $30 million film for $18 million is what they were saying. And they cut corners every which way that they possibly could. And unfortunately, a weapons wrangler was one of those things that they cut. John Massey, I believe the actor's name was, Funboy wasn't supposed to shoot Eric. That decision was made right at the last minute where Poirier said, you know what? Shoot him. See what it's just go with that shot and see what it goes like. And golly, that changed the world. I know.
And Alex has felt miserable about it for years. So let's not just say like, oh, he did it and like that's what happened. It's he regrets that decision, and he has taken this so personally as far as the loss of Brandon. He loved Brandon, and
I'm sure everyone did.
Yeah, and it still haunts him to this day when he talks about even like the current remake and the new one. It's like
the remake
it touches that nerve, and we know some other actors who were like friends with Brandon at that time, and like best friends, and like it's a tragic loss. It very much sucks what happened, but things did change after that. So the best thing you could hope for is somebody learns from this. And unfortunately, it seems about every 15, 20 years, somebody thinks they want to do another shortcut, and unfortunate that this accident has been replicated. But from what I specifically remember about this one is it was debris from a blank that took out Brandon. It was not an actual live round.
Yeah. Maybe so. I mean, you've shot blanks. I've shot blanks. I also know that most guns that have blanks have plugs in the barrels. Who knows? This was Hollywood. It was a prop gun. It's not supposed to look like it's got a plug in the barrel. I don't know. Being the detective type that I am, all the drugs that were going on behind the scenes, someone probably owed somebody a whole lot of fucking money. Brandon didn't like the way that the crew was working, being on all the fucking blow, and someone wanting to make all that money shut him up. I don't believe his death was an accident. I never did. His dad's death was not an accident. I don't believe in coincidences. This is an ugly, ugly story that happened. It was a tragedy. And I like Mark's portrayal of him. It was a very good portrayal of him. Mm-hmm. I agree with Alex. This new portrayal shouldn't be. It's disrespectful. Right. And to clarify what I meant before, it was not Alex's fault. Whoever's fault this was the person that put the fucked up piece in John Massey's hand or in Funboy's hand. That's all it was. So the fact that Alex said, let's just try it, was fate. That was random. That was God. Yeah. That was whatever you want to call it. But that wasn't him laying like, now I've got him. No.
Gotcha.
So I apologize for that misunderstanding.
Oh. Well, let's keep talking about the movie and not dwell on something like that.
Movie? What movie? Oh.
Now we got to segue back, Kevin, so thanks on that one.
All right. So going way back to the beginning of the show, you said, where was I when I first saw this? I was with my first girlfriend, the love of my life, my best friend, and I saw this movie by myself, and it ripped my heart out because I'd never been in love before. This was like the newest, most purest, rawest feeling in my whole life. And I just thought to myself, what if someone had hurt Brooke this way? What if someone had taken her from me this way? Like, I didn't care so much about getting my own ass tossed out the window. Just what if somebody had hurt her? And it destroyed me as a kid, and it made me cry, and it like imprinted her for this movie into my head for like 30 some years since then. And it wasn't until this last time that I watched the movie where it's like the movie didn't affect me the same way. I enjoyed it greatly. Sure. I think it's a much better movie than what IMDb rated it as, 7.5. But golly, I had to take something out of this picture to and keep enjoying it while reviewing it. And that was love. I had to take my own love that I had for somebody out of this picture to not feel it that way anymore. And that kind of was weird. And you and I were talking about it the other night. And it was the fact that we're in our 40s. We're married. And we know at this point in our lives that
I am.
True love dies.
God damn it, Peg. The mute button ain't working no more.
I'm watching this and I'm not bored, but it took me all fucking day to watch this movie. I'm going to be real. I haven't watched this in like 10, 15 years. And it took me all day on Friday to watch it. And I wasn't able to articulate it until you and I were waiting for Skeets going, well, you know what? I think I get it. I'm almost 45 years old and I'm married. I don't fucking believe in romance.
Romance? What's that? That's something that takes away an extra $100 out of my paycheck.
I'm of the opinion of the philosopher, the late, great George Carlin, that if I was be put in this situation, I would have quoted him and said, do what you want with the woman. Just leave me alone. Turn right the fuck around. Walk out the door because your murder was not part of that deal, Eric.
Yeah. Yeah, it's love. True love. It's what brought us together today. At least the romantic relationship between Eric and Shelley was well done. They also had great chemistry between Brandon and the actress. Her name escapes me. Sorry about that, everybody. But at least it played out well. And there was times that, you know, when Eric was talking about how Shelley was when they were both still alive, or he's remembering her, all the moments were sweet. They were tender. They were caring. They didn't feel forced. They felt natural. It's like, I liked the construction of that story and how well that arc played out. And this movie gives me one of those lines that have stayed with me ever since I've seen the movie all the way to this day, is that little things always meant so much to Shelley, because later on they would turn out to be the big things. And that's a paraphrase, but that's how I always took that. So doing big things in relationships is cool. It's the little things you do that really stay with you and linger and show how much you truly care for somebody. And I've always taken that line and message like in all my relationships. So I'm always doing like little things. And I don't know, that struck a chord with me as a kid. It still strikes a chord with me even today, which would then bring me to the thing that I've heard recently, because the movie's out on Blu-ray and there's been reviews out about the Blu-ray, so the 4K, and everybody's digging the transfer. Everything's looking good that way. But some people are saying this movie doesn't really hold up so much today. And to them, I think you missed the point of this movie. And I do think it holds up today. And I just completely disagree with them. Now, if you're talking about special effects, there's not that many in here. And for what it is, it's a movie from basically the mid-90s. it's going to have its issues, technically wise. Story wise, not so much. If you don't like the story now and you did as a kid, hey, your tastes have evolved. That's totally cool. But I completely disagree that the movie does not hold up today. I think that just means this isn't your movie anymore. It's just not your movie anymore. You're into something else. You are not a hardcore fan of this movie at this point. You liked it back then? That's cool. You're not a fan of it now? Hey, that's your perception that's changed, not the movie. The movie still holds up very fine. I think it's extremely well shot. It's framed very well. Technically speaking, all the actual work on this movie, aside from the accidents and everything we just talked about a little while ago, aside from all of that, the movie still comes together exceedingly well. And the story rewards the payoff on Eric and Shelley were murdered. Eric has been brought back to right that wrong, and he fucking kills everybody. It's a revenge flick with some romance into it, very sci-fi-y. And then, of course, you got the tremendous, awesome soundtrack of this movie, which is fantastic. Not only the score by Graham Revell alone, but the fucking soundtrack in general. This is one of those first movies that had both a soundtrack and a score soundtrack, and they both got released, and I have them both. And I am now playing both of them while I'm working lately. So
this had 3 volumes?
2.
Wait, weren't there two tracks or 2 CDs that had regular songs?
Let me double check here. Oh, I found my Dark City CD.
I may be completely mistaken. I may be thinking of something like Grosse Pointe Blank.
Let's see. We got Graham Revell's soundtrack.
I see. Excellent.
Or score, I'm sorry. And then the original motion picture soundtrack with all these are all original. If there was a new special edition that ever came out, I don't have that.
Golly, that
maybe that could be something you're thinking about. If there was like a 2-disc special edition with unused songs that they had made, but they never actually like released, because there's other I got other soundtracks here where they have like unreleased score tracks that were made for the particular movie that they never actually used. So that's very possible. That might be what you could be thinking about, but I don't know about that. I'm so bad at following up on soundtracks. There was a time I was all about that. I have all like the Halloween ones that first came out years ago. And of course I got some Farscape, Leviathan, Tremors, Space Above and Beyond, Big Trouble Little China. So I got a few soundtracks that I totally dig, but this is literally the movie with the very first time I went straight to Tower Records after this movie. And yes, it was Tower Records in University City, San Diego. And I bought both those motherfuckers, and they were on repeat.
All summer long.
Hells yeah. Well, even playing the movie is like, God damn, I want to listen to that shit again. Right, straight out of my childhood, and I still love that kind of music. So can't help it. I like what I like.
No, I dig it, man. I dig it. This movie helped people define themselves and find themselves in a lot of ways. It helped bring people together and forge friendships and stuff. There's a lot to be said about this movie. It's very special. Yeah. It's not the best movie that came out of the 90s, but it is one of the more special films that came out of the 90s.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel? Do you feel like the movie holds up today? I mean, I know I just kind of went off on a little bit of a rant, but what do you think?
Yes, I'd say so. Because really, when you love somebody, that intensity never goes away for that person. It never does. I mean, you may become jaded and whatever else as you get older.
And Al Bundy.
Yes, but you do never stop loving somebody. Your idealism. No, I am a crotchety old son of a bitch. This doesn't really hold up for me anymore. Like, I'm gonna go home after this, have a beer, go to Yes, this movie is one I don't watch often because it does give me those, I don't want to say they're bad memories, just memories of missing somebody. And it's not like I can't just call that fucking person because, again, they are still one of my best friends. But like that person just doesn't. Anyway, babe.
No, I get you. I had a girlfriend around this time too, and I was like, oh, yeah. It seems to be whenever I watch this particular movie, I'm like, I wonder how that person's doing. And then, oh man, I hated high school.
If I could go back with my head now, I'd probably get in so much fucking trouble.
Yeah, I'd probably change a few things. Whatever.
If I could get away with the things that I knew I can get away with.
Now that, sir. Yeah. I completely agree with that.
Yes. That's all I want out of life, just to get away with the shit that if I would have gone back and questioned it, yeah, probably could have gotten away with it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but that's a digression. So again, this flick holds masterpiece. I don't want to see it be remade. It is being remade. It has been remade. Maybe it's going to get remade again. We don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know. It was a lightning in a bottle. They've never, ever been able to recapture this a second time. And I think that's because of Brandon.
Yeah, I think Brandon and the overall legacy of the movie and where it holds a place for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. But I really like this movie. So, but Brandon, you will always be missed. And even like you just said, I will only watch this movie every so often. This is not one I have on like a perpetual repeat like I did when I had my VHS tape when I first got the damn thing.
Yeah. Like prior to Blade, this was the best superhero film I think that had been made up to this point. Like this is a little bit over Batman Returns for me. Like, wow, this is pretty goddamn entertaining. Like,
well, it's different, and not everybody knew about the actual Crow comic book by James O'Barr, who, if I remember correctly, he really liked Brandon as the Crow from interviews. Now, I'm not sure if he ultimately liked the film as much as like everybody else did, but he didn't hate it. It's when you got to the sequels and everything after that, he got a little old manish about it, but for good reason.
Oh, yeah, man. I wouldn't want people to tarnish my shit either.
Yeah.
They tried that initially. Paramount wanted to make this a musical starring Michael Jackson.
Yeah, no. Brandon would so kick his own ass.
I wouldn't have wanted to see an action movie starring Michael Jackson. Like, Moonwalker was okay. I don't need to see an actual action film with Michael Jackson in it.
Michael did fine with his music videos. That's where his strengths were at. So it played into the music tunes that he was writing and performing, and he could have a say in how it ultimately ended up looking. So he was fine for the short burst, but a full-length feature film for him. Madonna had problems for years, and she had more acting ability than Michael did. Oh, hot take. We just got canceled.
Except for Rosie. Rosie's like, goddamn right, she's brilliant.
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Oh, man, I do like that movie, though. Sorry.
Evita.
I do. I liked Andrew. I really liked Andrew Lloyd Webber when I was in the 90s. In the 90s, I liked Broadway and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Now that's another one of those things where I'm just kind of like, why?
You just did. You just do.
If everybody goes through phases.
That's true. But then again, if we never got this movie, I don't know if I would have seen Dark City, because it's a follow-up to this movie of not like a direct follow-up or anything, but it was the next movie after The Crow for Alex Proyas. And I call this movie and Dark City his 1-2 punch for what he could do as a director. And Dark City is literally my favorite film of all time. And maybe one day we'll cover that, but he took what he learned from here and he was able to make the movie he really wanted to in Dark City, relatively, till he got to do his director's cut. But I don't think he'd ever come back to The Crow for a director's cut. I think he's basically leaving this as is.
I think he did a great job. Like, this is pretty perfect. I don't know if he'd want to tell another story or wanted to tell more of a story. His heart's bleeding and will never stop.
Yeah.
So, like, this has its group of fans, and people will hold it forever in that regard, close to their heart.
Yeah.
Not the new movie, though. No, not the new movie. I just want to go see it in the theater just so I can hear somebody's voice going, "You suck!"
I want to go there so I can scream out, "Oh my God, it's Jared Leto as Joker!" Fuck!
It's Jared Leto.
Gomez.
Motherfucker.
Running gag from our Crow Stairway to Heaven episode coming out on Wednesday.
Yes. Where I won't be racist until Thursday, but not this Thursday.
But then the following Thursday, it'll be racist Thursday yet again.
Yes. With Portuguese people, not Hispanic people. Gomes.
Okay, Gomi. Cracking up my co-host yet again. That's another point for Jeff.
Anyway.
Kevin, you got any other slides? Any other thoughts? I know somebody will comment that we didn't talk about this or the other, but we're having a good time right here. So,
you know what? I would be remiss if I didn't thank our non-sponsor this evening.
Ooh.
We talked a lot about Funboy, but we didn't get the picture of him that I wanted to put with our non-sponsor. Wanted to thank GoPro, who lets you be everywhere nobody wants you to be. GoPro.
Also, probably not sponsored by the movie Teeth. Go watch that trailer, everybody. That'll really make you rethink.
I've seen the box art.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and the sister Micah, they gave her like the worst fucking scene in this movie, and I felt so bad for her because they make her. She's just like
she was an interesting character until you found out they were brother and sister.
Yes, that was horrible. But where they're talking about Devil's Night, she chimes in and goes, "I like the pretty lights." And everyone like starts laughing at her, and she gets like this discouraged look on her face, like, "But I wasn't making a joke." And you're just waiting for people to be like, "Get off the stage! You're not funny!"
I got a tomato incoming.
And then she just kind of sleeks back behind her brother, and you're like, "Oh, poor thing." Probably just could have cut that scene out altogether, and your character would have been just as good for it.
Hey, and all I'd say is they're about to lose their eyes while they sleep if they keep that kind of crap up.
The eyes have it.
I liked her. I mean, most of the characters, like, the reason why I think I enjoy this movie so much is because your villain is only as good as his hero, and your hero is only as good as the villains. And you had this great group of fucking psychotic people for Eric Draven to go start smoking. And it was every death scene, every fight scene was fun, well shot again, and just ultimately super physical. And even the final battle was strangely satisfying, even though it seemed like it was over pretty quick, and Eric really didn't get like the better hand on him directly.
No, it was really the rain and he slipped, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. But he had just given him the memories all at once. And then that's what caused the slip, and then he impaled himself.
That's right. The intense lovemaking sessions with a fun boy.
All 30 hours of the pain that she had suffered.
Yes.
Yeah, from his eyes, from everything. And it's just, that is so poetic for him to, you must now experience everything she felt before she passed on, you fuck.
In just a moment, though.
Yeah, all at once in just a moment, and that make it go fucking crazy.
It's kind of like the ending of Dread.
Seconds you're alive.
Enjoy and goodbye.
That would have been funny is if we had our Dread movie around this time with Carl Urban and somebody had knocked him with the slow-mo for Top Dollar, and while he's going down to the impaling, it all slows down and it just keeps replaying in his head as he's dying. And so it feels like the last 5 seconds of his life lasts for 5 hours. So it even adds even more pain and anguish to him.
We need a supercut, damn it.
Somebody make it happen. Let's go.
Oh, but I do enjoy this flick. This is one I probably need to come back to again on a better day, or I'm feeling less cynical about things, I guess.
Oh, I know, right? It's just because these days.
It is a pretty near perfect flick. It's got some problems. It had a whole lot of problems that we talked about, but
behind the scenes,
it'll never be an unenjoyable film for me. Never.
No, and Brandon's performance is top notch. I definitely think he was poised to be breaking out after this movie. I remember at the time when the movie came out, just like when Heath Ledger passed away after The Dark Knight. They finished shooting and he passed away. And they said, oh, the only reason why The Dark Knight is so good is because Heath Ledger passed away, and then people went and saw the movie.
Wait.
No, he earned his fucking Oscar. And just the same with Brandon Lee. He might not have won an Oscar, but this was his best performance. And even if that accident didn't happen and he didn't pass away, people still would have gone to see this fucking movie. And would it have still been as big a hit as it was? Maybe, maybe not. But it would have been a hit. I absolutely believe that this movie was going to do really good because people were itching for a movie like this. Something a little more dark with the dark superheroes. This Blade, what we're going to be getting in the future. This is totally not Shazam or Shaq Steel or what we were getting from Batman and Robin. This was something completely different that was doing a comic book that not everybody knew about. And so you're mining from this source that you have some wiggle room with people. And you would see the same thing later on with Guardians of the Galaxy with James Gunn and the first go around. They basically took what is essentially a D-list team and made them a top tier team because not many people knew about Guardians of the Galaxy. So it was a whole new crowd that they could kind of play in a sandbox with and kind of make it work for live action. And it's a proven concept and it works as long as you treat it with respect and care. And they definitely did that with this movie. And I'm so grateful that Brandon was able to be in this and give us this kind of performance because I would want to go out on top. I would just wish he was still around so we could have seen how big he really could have become. I think he really was poised for more.
Yeah, that would have been something to see.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's our Crow review. I'm not going to leave too bad on a downer here, so thank you everybody for checking out the Crow 0 Point Reviews. We hope you had a good time. If you did like this, please hit that like button. Comment down below. Hit the little follow, subscribe button. Hit that little bell notification because next week we're going to do another Crow movie, The Crow City of Angels, Part 2. Because Kevin and I both feel it is probably one of the only best sequels that has ever happened. And it's still not even quite the level of this movie, but we are looking forward to doing that. I haven't seen it since it's been in theaters, so maybe my perception will have changed. We will see, but that should be a good, fun time. So thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. We enjoyed The Crow. We had a really good time talking about it, even the not so great things, but this is a movie absolutely worth talking about, and keep it in the collection, and hope you all do too. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you all next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.